it's possible. Okay, so thank you everyone for arriving so in such a timely way. I am excited to have another opportunity to work with you. And I have Jose. Okay. Um, who will join us. And I'm just going to share my screen for a couple of minutes and then we'll start the check-in process. Welcome here, Jose. Good to see you.
Thank you. Good afternoon to
Good
everybody.
afternoon. Okay, so in the work that we're doing today, I want to welcome everyone here. This is our third module out of 4. And we had 2 sessions for module 2 because of an extended session we had with Keaton. And we will also have Chad joining us and maybe possibly Bob later on to have an additional discussion. They're in another meeting at the moment. But we are looking at taking a look at step 3 and 4 of the change management process to look at ideations, and we'll do problem solving for this as well. So there's a little bit of blending between step 2 and 3 here, and then step 4 in terms of selection of solution. So I just want to say thank you again for everyone being able to be here. Just overall, again, to emphasize the importance of the purpose for the training that we're having, it is to prepare local change agents to support the change management process for the OASIS implementation. So part of this is building a portfolio or a toolbox, a toolkit for the change management process. And we do draw from the AGC way tools and to re-emphasize and do practices with that. And so in practicing some of the different tools, don't worry if you don't think that you've been proficient in any of the tools, because you will have many opportunities to do so. So part of this is also developing the relationships amongst yourselves as change champions so that you can support one another, share information, and share lessons learned as different people and different sites go through the process. Given that Canada is moving on forward ahead, I'm sure they'll have some wisdom and some experiences for others to learn vicariously from. And as Mexico comes on board, you'll also gain insights that can help other plants that's coming on board after you. So with this, for our modules, from module 1, we took a look at your role as change champion. You had an opportunity to introduce yourselves to your different stakeholders, and then to identify what the overall change management process involves with its 6 steps. And then we'll look at, in session 2 and 2.5, it was to identify the scope and then do work on diagnosis and analysis. So you will have an opportunity today in a few minutes to sort of share your experiences of what you did with the gap analysis and force field analysis. In doing both those analyses, you needed really important empathetic listening skills to practice, as well as asking questions through with interview questions. So then this brings us to today's work with step 3, with problem solving and ideation. And then how, given the situations that you're faced with and all the possibility of options for solution, how do you select a solution? So being able to make decisions in selecting a solution for going forward, we'll talk a little bit about that towards the end. And then our next session, module 4, is you will have an opportunity to take a look at implementing an action plan and identifying progress and performance outcomes. For this module 4, you will also be presenting a case study based upon some of the application of tools that we're going through. So with that, our agenda for today's work then is we'll do our regular check-in and then have a brief discussion with Chad. I know that he's just joined us. So thank you, Chad, for coming in. and then you'll do a report out on the homework. So whoever has managed to move through it, will do an open discussion to learn from one another. And then if you weren't very clear on it, that's fine, because you'll have another opportunity to have another attempt with this next homework to prepare for session 4. Fernando then will also provide a deeper dive into problem solving tools that he does training with, in terms of the AGC way with the fishbone diagram and PDCA. We'll do a brief break and we'll move into step 3 for the A3 problem solving to lead to ideation for options, and then talk a little bit about selection of solution, before Q&A to take a look at homework for next steps. Any questions about what we're doing today? Hearing none, I want to just check in. So one word for how are you doing? And 1 minute, if you could share with the group, take 1 minute very briefly. What is one interesting discovery from the last meeting that we had? Okay, so 2 things. How are you doing? And what has been interesting? Just very briefly in 1 minute, okay? So I'm going to start on my screen and basically go into the order of how people have entered in. So Ryan, 1 word for how you're doing and any one thing that's been interesting since we last met. And you'll have to unmute yourself. And I'll go from Ryan to Amalia to Brenda.
1 word is actually pretty good. No big issues from the last session. It's been good to connect with some people, sort of talking about like the gap analysis and the issues that they're seeing. So I think it was really good to sit down one-on-one to be able to get some of those. So.
Great. We look forward to hearing more about the gap analysis and what you've done then. Amalia.
I am happy and happy. Okay. The last session, I like the empathy that we saw about the empathy.
Okay. All right. Brenda, 1 word for how you're feeling and one thing that's interesting that has happened over the last week.
Positive. And yeah, I don't really know. I think like just everyone seems to be plugging along very well at the training and testing.
Okay. I have Tanya, Kenny, and Edson next. Okay. Tanya, how are you feeling? And one interesting thing since we last met.
Yes, today I feel happy.
Okay.
And then what did I discover in the last session? I remember the empathy and sympathy.
Okay, great. Kenny, and then Edson, and then Gabrielle. Kenny, you're on mute. No, you're still muted. Okay, good. You're good now.
Can you hear me? Can you hear me now?
Yeah.
All right. Sorry about that. I'm in the office here, still trying to. So the 1 word I would use this week, I'm going to say lost a little bit. So I took between last week's session and today, I reached out to 13 individuals here in the Farmington Hills office just to kind of get some feedback, you know, how they're doing or whatever. And I've already gotten 7 replies from individuals. And of the 7 I've gotten, no one has started testing here in Farmington Hills. So I think that's where it's a little different than a Bradford, SLP, or Guadalajara. So 7 of the 13 people that have responded, and none of them have actually done any testing yet. So I took that from Suzanne's note, like, because her 3 questions after we met with the core team: share with me how your testing is going, how similar are the processes in SAP to what you're currently using, and then, you know what I mean, I took those things and used it as an introduction. And like I said, of the 13 people that I reached out to, I got 7 responses and none of them have started the test. So just trying to, that's why I use the word lost, trying to understand, you know what I mean? How does a site like Farmington Hills here in the corporate office and testing link back to what is going on at the facilities themselves, where there's actual printing and scanning going on, where people are actually touching the system? From what I've seen, we don't have that here yet. So.
Okay, thank you very much. Edson,
No problem.
then Gabrielle, then Fernando. Okay, one word for how you're feeling, Edson, and one interesting thing that has happened since last week.
Okay, how I feel today, positive about this session. And one interesting thing is I could start this exercise for the gap analysis with the team that I planned last week. It was interesting to share some ideas and frustrations. I will share that in a minute when we review the homework, but it was a very interesting exercise.
Oh, good. I'm looking forward to your report out. Okay, Gabrielle, and then Fernando, and then Jose.
Oh yes, Diana. I'm really happy and excited for last session. Last session, I'm happy to learn about and understand our people. Why? If we do an analysis or gap analysis, I call to know our current state, and we need to improve our work with the desired state. Step by step, we can to work in the desired state.
Okay, thank you. Fernando, how are you feeling, and what's been most interesting of late? Yes, you, Fernando.
Okay,
Garcia.
good deal.
Jose.
Things. Number one, I'm excited.
Okay.
That's the word, and excited for two things. One, for having the opportunity today to be invited to this session, and two, because next week we will have the budget camps within the different plans, and basically on those sessions or meetings, we have a lot of discussion about the KPIs for the next year for the three main plans, and then the week after we're going to do for the SLP plan as well. So that's it for the excitement of this week.
Okay, wonderful. Jose, are you within hearing distance? Okay, I'm not seeing him. Then I will go to Chad. How are you feeling today? And an interesting thing that's happening in your life, and then Suzanne.
I'm feeling encouraged above all. I think was able to come to the plant in Bradford yesterday and spend time with the team today as well as tomorrow. So it's been really encouraging, especially, and just really interested in all the interest that we are getting around the project and being able to help others, seek out, find the information that they're looking for.
Great, thank you. Suzanne, how are you doing today? And one interesting thing that's happening in your space.
I'm doing very well. And what was interesting to me is I actually have two interesting things now. One was I was interested to see how positive the engineering team was about the SAP, even though they're not so much in scope. I'm more interested now to hear how Chad Mullins is going to respond to what Kenny had to say about Farmington Hills.
Okay, wonderful. And I'll just check in to Sun Chow as well. One word for how you're doing and one interesting thing this last week.
So one word, I feel very supportive today, and because this is the second training I sit in today, so lots of supportive work. And so interesting thing is happened during the weekend is we got new art that in our space where I sit right now is the sensei's office, and we work with a new artist. We have some new creative art piece, and they're sitting right in the conference room across me. I don't know whether you guys can see. I'm super excited.
Thank you. And I'm just very excited about being able to continue working with this process. And I am also looking at having had an interesting week with designing more new work, so new leadership development programs. So I'm excited about that. All right, so let's move on with our next item here. And we will take a look at how, share my screen here. I want to welcome Chad. I want to say thank you, Chad, for taking the time to spend a few minutes with our program here to support the development of the Change Champions. So you're welcome to take the floor to share an update with the team, and then also have the members ask you various questions, because you have such a broader scope of things that are happening on the ground. As a Canadian originally, I'm really jealous that you got to cross the border.
Yep, it was an experience. It was good though. So welcome everybody. For anybody we've not had the chance to meet yet, which I don't think is very many people, but my name's Chad Mullins, and I'm one of the core team members on the ERP project OASIS here. Functional areas that are within my responsibility are the procurement, forecasting and ordering, the EDI, MRP, receiving, and then the work through production, transferring to staging, labeling, storage in the warehouse, pick, pack, and ship to get it out the door, including bill of ladings, ASNs, quality. So within quality, like audit management, the 8D and 5P generation, and also OEM PPM reporting and NSL PPM reports we've built within the system. Those are primarily the areas. We have, as an update.
I just want to ask you, who is it that you don't know on the screen? And just have them introduce themselves to you.
I think really just Sun Chow, I think.
Okay.
Fernando's hiding, but we definitely, Fernando and I were able to make a trip to Japan in the past. And,
so you know them well. So maybe share a little bit about yourself there, for who you don't know.
So I've been with AGC in May, celebrated my 25th anniversary, and prior to that worked for a group that owned McDonald's restaurants, 5 of them, and a couple of hotels. So a management group that worked over those. I was specifically responsible for one of the restaurants, and then went to Ohio State University. Suzanne and I have an enjoyable rivalry from time to time, teasing about that. But let's see, within AGC, worked in the production floor in tempering, and then went to supply chain and scheduled for a while, and have been able to return to production in assistant manager and manager roles within AVO, encapsulation and assembly, as well as tempering, and then was asked to go to supply chain and bring some structure change there within the Bellefontaine facility as well. Did that for a little while, and then was asked to join the ERP team. Be in October. That'll be about 2 years. We've been working to bring this. So right at go live, be beginning to enjoy the fruits of all the work. So just really excited to see that come.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. Update wise, really we are beginning to start cycle 3 in Bradford training. So we've been working through cycle 1 and 2 testing scenarios. The team's been doing a nice job. We originally preparing some of the documents, I'd say there was room for improvement. We listened to their feedback, and we were able to utilize the links in Panaya to organize the information a little better than originally. So it was easier for the users to get what they need. It's not perfect, listening to the feedback here from the team, but it's definitely well improved. And so as we begin the journey towards working on SOP, standard operating procedures, yeah, I think we can focus there to get better also. But they're beginning to gain some comfortability with the testing that they're doing and the transactions. And at the same time, we're working to schedule with Mexico. We've completed the first cycle of training. So we're getting ready to do the second cycle. And when we complete that, then begin their testing so that they can begin to gain some comfortability with the system also. So within the training, we learned from the first rounds that the more we can get the users hands-on and more focused one-on-one time, that's working out well. So those are some of the adjustments we've made along the way.
And remind us what functional areas you're supporting.
So logistics, supply chain, quality, production. So everything from procurement and EDI, getting the parts forecast and in the door and received, and then handling production. So all the transactions that go along with production, and whether the parts need put on hold or defects entered or that, all the handling of that through to placing the product into the warehouse. And so then, like it was saying earlier, the pick, pack, and ship, getting the outbound shipping headed out, all the paperwork that goes along with that, bill of ladings, ASNs, and then the quality area as well, audit management, the PPM reporting, and the ATM5Y generation, the reports of those within SAP. And of course, the goal is with all of this information to be in that one system so that across organizations, we're finding many differences, for each single site, but as a whole, being able to have all that information in the one site helps, especially from, working with Pablo, being able to see if there's trends where, there's problems across sites that happen to be root cause, might be, might have like symptoms, that's sourced somewhere other than just at that site.
Thank you.
Does that help?
Perfect.
Hey, Chad?
Yes, sir.
Sorry, this is
Gabriel.
Chad, about the people or the final users. My people of supply chain asked me about them. When they will start with the training. I understand we are taking the trainings and we will learn to the people, but some of you will training our people or only we?
I think the plan is to have a train the trainer approach. So I wouldn't say only you. We will be involved in helping with the training, but the plan is to get a set of experts developed, at each site locally, so that they can begin to spread that knowledge as well. And we will develop those standard operating procedures together. So I think at that time, that training, that's when we can spread that out further. But Gabriel, I would encourage, we have just even meeting with Bradford today, the production manager has a couple of coordinators he would like to begin to get involved. And it's the right time for their situation. And if you have some folks like that, we've been open. Edgar has added a couple of people and Elizabeth as well. Sergio and Paulo had some specialists they wanted to add. And so we've been doing that. So if you feel like you'd like to get some of those folks involved now, just if you send me the names, then we can get their access. We generally within about a half a day, we turn around, they'll have their username and the passwords, and we can, invite them to the training too.
Chad, do you have any recommendation or suggestion on which positions they have to be involved, like in wave 1?
Fernando, I'm just having a terrible time hearing you at the beginning.
Hopefully you can hear me now. Do you have any recommendation of traditional positions that have to be included within the trainers?
Within this subject matter experts right now, I think we've got them well covered, but the procurement team for sure, folks that are included in buying, forecasting, and then within the production team, the coordinators. I think the coordinators are really key, that we have knowledge of the system. One thing I know that we've been careful to guard against is letting it just be pushed down to only the floor team. It's skipped by the mid layers there, so that we all have some understanding of how we can leverage the system in each of our roles. But those have been, of course, the receiving and shipping teams as well. Just trying to think. Quality, been working with Pablo to make sure that we're aligned with their expectations on audit management. So the folks that enter all the data on a daily basis within that team, they've been involved heavily. Those are the areas that come to mind at first, Fernando.
So purchasing, supply chain, the ones who receive and ship the material, production coordinators,
production,
engineer and auditor perhaps.
Your forecasting.
The planner. So I guess does that cover it, Gabriel?
I think that's the core group. Of course, finance. I'm not the finance guy, but of course the finance team and within finance, project management has been a topic that's pretty heavily been worked through.
Okay. Yes, that is a point that we have, or we are concerned about the training of final users. The final users is the people that will make the work or do the work every day, and maybe they can have some doubts, but I think you can support if you do a training for all the people or final users.
I certainly will support that. Yes. Yeah.
Okay. Thank you.
Anyone else?
Chad, just one thing to add on to that. The one thing that might be a little bit difficult is the ones that are actually users. Like right now, currently the main team is more, we'll call a bit offline. We'll call it like management or leaders and that kind of stuff. Once we get into the coordinators that are on every day on their job, can't really pull them off. So that's going to be a difficult challenge. Like sometimes the lower levels to get them trained up is we're going to have to look at outside normal hours. Because you can't just pull them off the floor. Like you might get 30 minutes, maybe 20 minutes, but there's no way to get a 4-hour chunk at all from that group. It'll have to be something that we plan. So.
Understood. Thank you. That makes good sense too.
Yeah. How far in advance do you need notice, Chad, in order to train up a group?
I think the plan is there quite extensively to have the team prepared, but again, the folks that are being trained now will certainly be a part of assisting with that.
Given what what Ryan has shared in pulling people off the line for training, if it's a train the trainer model, will they also be developing training skills to become an effective trainer in that process as well?
I'm not aware of specific, I respect the question for sure. I'm not aware of specific different training currently for them, but yeah, certainly I would agree that's needed. They are typically they've been the functional experts in their areas. That's why they're identified as the subject matter experts by the the site team. So they are the folks that have been the go-tos in the past already.
Yeah.
So I think we're on target as far as having the right individuals, but your point's well taken that I think if we can give them skills to hone how to train, it definitely would be well spent.
Yeah. And in terms of being the trainer, how large of a group are you looking at training at any one time?
Let's see, we've been in the single digits with Bradford and Guadalajara, but with SLP, it's been a little bit larger. However, that was at a very basic understanding of the system, just how to maneuver on a very basic, how to even get around a screen of what the different bars were. As we've dove into the areas more, and the teams will really see this in the next cycle here. As we dive into the areas that will be smaller numbers, more in the Bradford and SLP, Bradford and Guadalajara are going to be, 4, somewhere around the number of 4 in any of the areas. Again, SLP has they've got a few more people involved. But the numbers will be smaller because we'll be diving a little deeper. The topics won't change so much for cycle 2 and 3, but the level of depth will be deeper, and actually their time on the screen and in the system with the consultants, right there with them. They'll have more opportunity to spend time in it.
Okay. Other questions for Chad?
Hey Chad, this is Kenny. Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Hey, can you talk maybe a little bit about, because you've got myself, Suzanne, and Mike Baker here as change champions for the Farmington Hills office. So we took the office here and we kind of divided it up into 3 groups. So I don't know if you were on the call earlier when I said it, but I'm getting a lot of feedback that no one has started testing. Some of the procurement team, some of the team in sales or whatever. So, and I understand that our testing might be different because we're not end users that are scanning or printing labels or whatever. So I guess maybe I'm just a little bit lost on what are the expectations of testing here in the Farmington Hills office. Yeah.
So you'll see invites coming very soon. Late Friday, received the agenda with the detailed topics for cycle 3 for Bradford. And so yourself and supply chain cohorts there, and then also the purchasing group, Lindsay and the group
Nathan.
there. Yeah, Nathan. Yeah, they will be included. Some of the team, we've had to set some expectations where things will be changing. So we've been trying to, for subject matter experts, especially like in procurement, currently plant side, they do a lot of the vendor setup, which that's changing to a centralized approach where that will be done by the Farmington Hills group. But it's important that the local teams at the plants know it, recognize it, can still get to the screens. So we've been working with them to understand how to do that, and yet try to communicate that although you won't have access to change it, you need to be able to understand how to go find it. And that we've been working through some of those things with them. And it's like I said, you'll see on this cycle, you'll see the procurement team and supply chain team, and then Doug and Andrew from the sales group beginning to get involved so that they can populate the forecast, and like the rolling 24 will be in there that will help drive MRP. So those are the groups I know functionally that I've got planned to include in this next round.
Okay, all right. So we might just been a little bit early then by reaching out. You know what I mean? So.
You know, Kenny, part of what made it tough too was catching any full group with the furloughing. It was just tough to catch everybody at once, and really didn't want to start the rumor mill with, oh man, he must like Kenny better because he talked to him first. Oh, that means that you know he's more solid than that person, or so it has been. We have waited, and we did think a little bit about, you know, is it wise or not?
Okay.
So definitely respect the feedback you've had.
Okay, I appreciate that.
He's only said that because you're wearing a crimson shirt.
Oh.
not at all.
Okay, and then so Chad, we shouldn't have an expectation that they've been and done testing, but we should have an expectation that they've at least been in the system and touched it. All the SMEs.
All the SMEs for sure. Yeah, the corporate team, I just was giving information to the team to make sure that they all had access, and we're ready to be able to get it in. So. Oh, I think I left the quality group out. My apologies, but some of the corporate quality team as well will be included in the next round too.
Okay, great. Thanks, Chad.
I want to acknowledge that Mike Baker is just joining us as well. Any other questions or comments or feedback for Chad? Okay. Well, I want to say thank you very much for the time you're taking out. I know that it's kind of crazy busy on your schedule. Mike, we're just closing our time here with Chad Mullins. Did you have any questions for him or anything while we have him?
Not at this time. So if I come up with anything, I will let him know. Thank you, though.
Okay.
Thanks, Mike.
All right.
Hold on.
Oh, just before you go.
I'd like to read a message from Bob Buttrick, who couldn't be with us today because of a family emergency. So
okay.
Here is his update. I joined AGC in September of 2018 as the supply chain capacity manager and was in the role until January of 2020. In January, I transitioned to Fernando Garcia's operational excellence team as a data analytics lead, where I'm responsible for leading a project to create an algorithm to predict Mercedes windshield failures early in the process to reduce scrap and increase yield, as well as other data analytic projects such as the creation of production KGI dashboards. In March of 2020, I was asked to join the ERP team as a data management lead, while also retaining my responsibilities on the operational excellence team. As data management lead at a high level, my role on the ERP team is to manage the data migration from our legacy systems such as Mapix and Secor into SAP. This process involves working with third-party programmers to extract data from legacy systems, reviewing, validating, and working with business users like yourselves to correct errors, and finally uploading the clean data into the SAP for user testing. This is an ongoing and cyclical process where we find and correct legacy data issues or programming logistic errors, load into SAP client, conduct more testing, and then start the process over again until we can ensure all required data is accurately migrated to SAP for launch. I've worked with a lot of you on various data issues over the past few months and greatly appreciate your support. Please let me know if you have any thoughts or recommendations on how we can improve the data migration process. Feel free to contact me at the number below. And I will share this with each of you after this message.
Okay. Thank you, Suzanne. Okay. Any last parting thoughts, Chad, as you are going to continue your work with the Canadians and then later on going down to Mexico?
I really, when I said encouraged earlier, I mean it. I've been really encouraged by the teams, the individuals, and their we want to say their enthusiasm. So please don't hesitate to reach out. We were talking with the team, and I think they're reluctant, whether it's an odd hour or a Saturday or something. You know, I'm here to help and get the consultants online to give you a hand when you need it. So don't worry about what time it is. You know, if you're needing a hand, we'll get on there. And likely, as we found out many times, that it's 30 seconds to 5 minutes. And people find out, you know, that, gosh, I wish I wouldn't have waited so long to call. So, you know, let us please take advantage and use us that way. That's what we're for. And we want to make sure that the transfer of knowledge is as smooth as possible and as thorough as possible, so that you know, the go lives are successful. So just really encourage people to take advantage of reaching out to us.
Okay. And the easiest way to reach out is by email?
You know what? Phone, text, email, ping me on Teams, Skype. I will answer you. I think folks know that, but yeah, whatever's easiest for you is how I'll get back to you, I promise. Voicemail is the only thing that I don't think it's set up, but.
Honestly, I'd say with Teams, being able to share the desktop and you and I going back and forth on a lot of different things, I'd say that's one of the most effective ways to do it, because it's real quick. You just, as you said, you just ping, you put a message, and then real quick you can get on, show the screen, this is my issue, what do I do? And then you could easily walk through it. What's happening is they're wasting about 15 to 20 minutes flipping through content, trying to figure it out, when they could probably just message you and within 2 minutes have the answer. So I'd say for the whole Mexico team, that's one thing that we probably should have done a little better, was be more responsive and calling out instead of struggling.
Yeah, the Teams has been very effective. I agree.
Yeah. So it's very, very helpful advice, Ryan, because oftentimes when people are in a change process, they're struggling, they go, it's me and I don't know how to do this, so I'll just sit here and wait. Yeah. So, all right. Thank you. I really appreciate the time that you've taken here. And we look forward to having you back, because I think at some point in the process, we'll need to have some further conversations.
Yep. Okay. Fully expect.
All right. Very good. Anything else, Suzanne, before Chad departs?
Safe travels home. Be sure to wear your maize and blue as you pass through Michigan.
Thanks.
You own a maize and blue shirt?
You know, I probably do, as much as I hate to admit it. Yeah, probably do.
We will.
Thank you, guys.
All right. Take care.
All right.
You, Chad.
Yes.
All right, so thank you to Chad, and I'm sorry we're missing Bob today, but we'll look forward to maybe at some future point connecting with him. For our session today, the learning objectives is to continue looking at the change management process with a deeper dive into steps 3 and 4, and then to be able to, we've started to partner with the core team to continue with aligning the change management initiative with the project management schedule. So training is a big event. We'll take a look at training the trainers that's coming down the line. Fernando's going to walk us through a deeper dive with the fishbone diagram and relate that to the PDCA cycle as part of the AGC way. We'll take a break, and then I'll walk through the A3 model for problem solving. Some of you may be familiar with this, but I'll get on the same page with A3 model. And then identifying both brainstorming and Q-storming to identify solutions that can address the root cause. And then finally, we'll close off with thinking of how your peers as a group here can support one another in the change management, and begin thinking about how to share lessons learned. And also this will help ramp up into sharing lessons learned with the other teams that are coming on board. So I appreciate that, how that process has already started with an exchange of experiences. So last time when we had looked at the diagnostic tools and go over the PDCA and relating the model, I had taken you back to the Cotter's organizational change models with those 8 components. We had a couple of videos about the importance of empathetic listenings and 4 important practices with your presence, full attention, how you can encourage sharing and staying silent to be empathetic. So I'm hoping that you've practiced some of that in the process, as well as questions for the gap analysis and force field analysis. So with that, the homework for today is to practice using the organizational diagnostic tool with 2E plus 3E, and using Cotter's change model as a guide for observing what's going on around you, but in particular to focus on conducting a gap analysis and force field analysis. So what I'm going to ask is to have us do a open discussion to share your results with the group and see what were your experiences. Who did you talk to when you conducted the gap analysis? What happened? What did you discover? When you did the force field analysis, what did you learn? And to just have an exchange of experiences. So I'm going to ask each person to take about 2 minutes to share what was done and what you found that was easy, what you learned. So just a reflection on your experiences. Suzanne needed to step out for a few minutes, but she'll review the recording here. So I'm going to ask people based upon my screen here to start with Edson and Amalia, and then Ryan, okay? Edson, how did it go with the homework assignment?
Fine, I'm trying to share my screen. I don't know if you are able to see it.
We can help, we can allow you, we can help you do that.
Okay, are you seeing my screen?
Soon?
Edson, please share one more time.
Try one more time. Great, it's coming online. Thank you.
Okay, so I made this brief presentation. I took a picture of the guys that I interviewed.
Very nice.
So there you can see, or that was my intention. Sergio Atilano, the production manager, and his team, all the supporting guys. So the idea of having this picture is also to share with the team their body language, where they were paying attention to the questions. As an introduction, I start talking about this ERP implementation. Some of them haven't heard a lot of the project. So there were a lot of questions and concerns about what's going on. ERP implementation was one topic, but in particular, we talk about some real issues that we are facing now. Before going to SAP, currently we are dealing with, I would say, 3 systems. 2 of them are like the key systems, which is Mapix and Secor. This is a particular situation where we have to deal with 2 systems at the time. And a third one is another one called Smart, which for this particular process, the AVO, we are not using that system, which it helps for our inventory and scrap reporting and control. So that was one of the issues that we identified. Actually, as you can see in the screen, after the Q1, we did a cycle count, some analysis, and we identified some material that were missing, and that was because of some scrap that was not reported in a timely manner, and also we were not able to identify that in the system. So this is a complicated part because we are almost in this phase out of using these 2 systems before jumping into SAP. But for the rest of the year, of course, we will need to continue working on the tasks, reports, and activities. so we can have our inventory information accurate for the remaining months. So sorry. Part of the force field analysis that we talked about, I identified as a positive comment from the team. We recognized a need for a different or a better solution compared to what we are facing these days. Also, to align, there was my understanding is a customer request to improve our ERP, specifically coming from Daimler. That's my understanding. And also to apply some lessons learned from what we faced or the team faced with the previous implementation. As a negative comments or feedback from the team, in general, there is an opportunity to improve communication. Now that we were talking to Chad Mullins, there was also this observation that these trainings are for 4 hours a day for almost a week. And even when the team is willing to participate, there is a conflict with the schedule because, of course, there are day-to-day activities that the team needs to take care of. So another concern is from a couple of sessions where this team, production team, has participated. The first perception is that the system is too complex to manage. So I try to be open and hear the team before sharing any other arguments. So generally speaking, that's what they shared. As I said, there was a late involvement on this production team in the trainings. This was already shared with Chad and the team. As I said, this conflict with the day-to-day activities. And also there was a concern that for this new implementation, we pay attention to make it easier for the people on the floor. So as far as instructions and the support, we do a proper planning for the guys to clearly understand the new system. That's what I have.
Okay. Thank you. Very impressive. This is very helpful. It's a great demonstration. Thank you, Edson. Any questions or comments for Edson? Okay, thank you very much. Okay, next up I have Amalia.
Can I share my screen?
Yes. Okay.
I have host disabled, participant screen sharing is disabled. Okay, now okay. Can you see my screen?
Yes.
Yes, okay. Maybe I have a different method that Edson. First of all, I identify the people functional area. This is the whole area and people, and we can identify who has user SAP and who are receiving who is receiving the training. This is the first task. Second, we have a meeting with the people is in yellow.
Okay.
Week, and we receive some comments. Our question, what do you know about SAP? It's a new ERP that improved the operation control. It we implemented this year. It's an important project for AGC.
Okay.
How will affect your process? It will be better because all areas will be connected. The information will be accurate.
Great.
Okay. How are you feel about the change process? Represents some uncertainty because it is new, more work at the beginning, worry but hope. When finished the implementation, I think my work will be easier.
Okay.
And gap analysis, This is the current state. Some people don't have training yet, and desired state training for all users. I think this chat answer about this question. One training for all functional areas. Some people say to us that spend a lot of time in the training, and sometimes they only expense only one hour for your area. In a specific case, it's for quality. They take all training about supply chain, but for quality, it's only 1 hour or something less. They ask me, is it possible to separate training by functional areas? Except finance is only the area that is separate. All areas is together. And the third procurement database for Guadalajara is incomplete. The purchases people told me that they cannot practice in tests for the company. 3,100 is for Guadalajara. And I think it's important that we assure that the SAP is okay for Guadalajara, the database. The action plan for me is share this information with the OASIS core team.
Okay.
This is all. Do you have any question or comment?
This is impressive. I appreciate the differences and the information you've gathered. This is very helpful.
Thank you.
Okay. Any questions from Amalia, from anyone else, or comments? Okay, we're started off strong here. This is great. Okay, next I have Brian, Brenda, and then Gabrielle.
Okay. Unfortunately, I don't have a presentation, but I'll more speak to who we talked to. So I talked to Chris, our production manager, and I also talked to Robin on the purchasing side, kind of get two different areas of understanding. And I mean, this is more of a formal sit down, but almost all the key people I've sat down and talked to, but this is where I explained the gap analysis and also the forces, both positive and negative, and for them to talk just openly about that. So it was pretty good sessions, both of them. What was good is that they're very similar in nature too, like some of the results that I got from the two different groups. It's just some key items here. Obviously, one of the main things is the time on the system. It's the hardest thing to overcome, right? To be able to get that time away from the regular jobs now that everything's 100%.
Sorry, Ryan, do you mean time for training on the system?
Yes. Okay. Yeah, time for the training modules to be able to get through those modules. When they were all just on those 4-hour video sessions, a bit of a different story. You plan that event, right? But now there's all the homework and follow up, and it's been really difficult for a lot of them to be able to find that amount of time to be able to get back onto the system, and then also time away. Even from going to the regular tasks and then coming back to the system, you forget some stuff too, right? So now you're going through and trying to refresh your memory with the videos, but that takes time too, right? Even to go through them all. So it is a bit of a struggle from all their cases. We can see that. And I already mentioned this earlier in the video call here, but the one thing they're saying is that, sometimes it takes 30 to 40 minutes to do a module when it should only take 10 to 15. And it's because they're having to flip through all the materials and, there's no real help. And I mean, yes, they could call, but they, sometimes people just want to struggle first to see if they could get through it. But it's adding all this extra time, right, of them going back through the materials. So that's where they're seeing some inefficiency, that if they were able to do it as more of a group or with a trainer beside them, or say on a Teams call or something, they could do it a lot faster. Right? It'd be like 10, 15 minutes, they're through the module. So that's one comment that was common across the board. The instructions for each of the modules is not very clear. So there's a lot of, what it is that there's examples, but you have to go through it to try and figure out the example. So it's not like it gives you the step-by-step. So that's another thing that it takes extra time, right? Because you have to try and figure it out. Comment here, another one was like, you know, obviously the videos are there, but as I said, it just takes a lot of time to go back through. The answers are usually there and you can find them. It just takes the time. Some of the, this is all Chris I'm looking at, obviously from the forces side, for the positive, obviously they understand the traceability benefits, the scheduling benefits, the linkage to the departments, all that stuff they fully understand. They can see how this is going to help the company. So they're starting to see that as a positive side. I mean, obviously the negative side is that obviously they're scared of how complex the system is because we have such a basic system here at Bradford. So what they're fearful of is the restrictions, meaning that there's no flexibility when it comes to what's in the system. Right now, they change on the fly on the floor. Say you don't have cart shortages, you have EDI changes, you could have all different types of changes in the system, and it's very easy right now for them to flex to a different run. Whereas if it's nailed down in the system and there has to be work orders and there's nothing changed in the system, and say you're at 11 p.m. at night and now you're trying to call someone, right, to be able to get the system updated and there's errors in the system. So that's a fear. I can see that's a big fear for how complex the system is and how the user-friendly part will be. And then obviously the last negative you noted here was basically just getting through the testing with a small team is also a challenge too, because with a larger team, you can spread out a bit of the workload and to get into these testing. But when you only really have yourself or maybe one other person in the department, here in case of Bradford, it's not as easy. So that's a bit of a fear in the forces of resisting, is because it's difficult. So that's sort of what I talked to Chris about. And Robin was very similar. The only thing I'd say is different that she noted is about the transactions. So in the system right now, often when you get into the module, it's in the middle of a transaction, meaning you didn't start it from beginning to the end. So it's a lot easier if you take and start a part, you enter it in the system as if you would in a normal environment, or in our work environment. You could see it from start to finish, but some of these modules, you're dead smack in the middle and you're trying to figure out what happened, right? Or how did they get this in there? So that's where she struggled a bit, and she found it actually better to just go in as if she was normally doing her job, enter something into the system, make a work order for it, complete the work order, do all the stuff as if it was a normal function. And she actually was able to check mark all the different training modules that would have piecemealed it, right? It would have been like separate individual ones where she did one session and was able to complete it all the way through. So that's another thing that I was talking to Chad today too, that maybe there might be some opportunities to change slightly how the testing is going. And also just the detail of the testing, it's vague. You're kind of diving into it, figuring it out. So just having that more instructions, the purpose, also even she said the purpose too. Like, not only do you want instructions of how to do it, but it'd be good to say, okay, this is what you're going to learn for this module. Like, this is the purpose of this module. You're now getting into it, and so you understand the scope versus just clicking on it. Okay, what do I got to figure out now? What do I got to do? Okay, I got to kind of figure out what to do now. I don't have instructions. So that's sort of some good feedback from her. And I mean, she had some positive feedback. Obviously, she's a positive outlook, and that it's all help is very easy to get. So both Chad and Jason and everybody's been really good help to help out. So sorry, it took probably longer than 2 minutes there, but just want to get a quick summary on it.
All right, but thank you. That was a really important thing. And I think as future sites take a look at being able to manage some of those fears and being able to deal with the training for instructions. So thank you. Any questions or comments for Ryan? Okay, I'll move on to Brenda and then Gabrielle, Kenny, and Mike. Okay, so Brenda.
So Diana, we're pretty small here. I don't have any of these people that report to me. So really what Ryan did on behalf of both of us.
Okay.
So I really don't have anything to report.
Okay, that's fine. Thank you. Gabrielle? Where did he? Yes.
Oh, yes, I'm here. Can I share my screen?
Okay, sure. Okay.
Okay, do you see my screen?
Give it another
Try it
try.
again.
Okay. Sorry, do you see my screen?
No, one more time.
Okay. Let me show.
There you go.
Yeah, okay. Okay, thank you. Okay, this is my example for gap analysis. I have only one example. People trained in SAP is not able to train their people. Why? Because they think the training is so fast. It's so, yes. In this case, we need to improve to desire or current state. Or current state, the people is concerned because they don't they is not able to learn or teach the people.
Gabriel, can you move to slide 2? I believe that's the portion you want to show.
Okay, thank you.
Creo que no está en modo de presentación, Gabriel. Ahora sí, ya.
Pero sabes que le pongo ampliar a Mali y no me permite.
Ya se ve, Gabriel, ya.
¿Sí se ve?
Sí, ya.
Okay. Okay. What is the issue? The issue is the people trained is not able to train his operation people. The step one is request to SAP trainer to the people more slow. The training is very fast for the people in Mexico. Maybe we need to train more slow or more longer the courses for new sessions. This is a attempt for check with chat maybe. The second step is to schedule the testing in Panaya for our people so they have able to train all the operation people. Sorry? Okay. And step 3, to do a training plan for all the operation people. When we general training for all the people, maybe we will be able to train it all the operation people. And the desired style is the people trained in SAP can to train his personnel without issues. This is that we need to work for people be least to use SAP. Yes, for do all this, we need to action plan. Only, for example, I will use a PDCA for all activities to do our implementation without problems.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Questions for Gabriel? Comments or feedback? Okay. The work that you've done there will go nicely into some of the work we're going to do with the A3 today as well, Gabriel. In terms of the training, I think that that's an important thing in terms of the speed. Is the training done in Spanish or is it done in English?
The training is on English, but the explanation is very fast.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. So that may be something to consider as well going forward. Okay.
Okay. Okay. Thank you.
Okay.
Diana, this is only applied for supply chain because for finance, the trainer is in Spanish. We have a trainer in Spanish.
Ah, okay. Good to know. So something for Yvette and Suzanne to help with the core team to understand some of these issues.
Yeah, the course for supply chain is in Spanish, sorry. It's in Spanish, but it's very fast. The explanation, the people not understand all the explanation. It's very fast for them.
Okay, thank you.
Maybe for the supply chain, they is using translators.
Mhm.
The training in English, but we have, for Mexico, we have a translator in Spanish in the training for supply chain.
Okay. Thank you. Any other feedback, comments, or suggestions? Okay. So taking a look at the practice with gap analysis and practice with force field analysis, I have Kenny next and then Mike.
Okay. Yeah, I think that a lot of mine goes back to the gap analysis and what I talked about with Chad when he was on the line, and like, you know, myself and Mike and Suzanne are attending this training. But what I've discovered is that there's a gap between, you know what I mean, here in the Farmington Hills office of what testing we believe might be already happening, and we might have just been a few weeks early. So then I go back to the Cotter's 8 steps or whatever, and that step 1, creating urgency, right? So we have people here, you know what I mean, that are aware that this is coming, but they haven't done any testing yet. So it sounds like, you know, we're a week out and we'll begin to see that happen. So I think that's encouraging to see.
Okay, thank you, Kenny.
No
Mike.
problem. No problem.
Yeah, so kind of echoing what Kenny said. So I had met with, again, how we divided up Farmington Hills between the 3 of us. I had met with my group or my designated domains the previous week, and really the testing aspect of it is not occurring yet at the corporate level. So not much to report out on from my side, but I do think that the tools, I have not had the opportunity since our last meeting to practice using those tools, but I do think that will be key to the next conversations with each of those domains once we begin the testing phase.
Okay, thank you very much, Mike. Jose, I don't see your picture, but I just wanted to see if you had anything to report in. You're also muted. I'm not sure whether he's here or not, so.
No, he's not in her place.
Say again?
Jose is not in her place.
Okay, all right then. What I'd like us to move to is, I want to say thank you to everyone who, and the great PowerPoint presentations in reviewing your homework. This is how we will continue practicing with some of these tools, and you'll have other opportunities to use this as well. Our next piece of work is to recognize that as we identify what some of those presenting issues are, identify the scope for change, the tools of gap analysis, force field analysis, and Cotter's framework will help with the diagnosis. And Fernando's also going to work with us in taking a look at a deeper dive of using the PDCA and relating the fishbone diagram to that before we move into problem solving with the A3 model and some other tools for looking at ideation and selection of solutions. So in terms of the model that we have, we're still in the planning phase before we move to do, check, and act. So I know that we are also at time for a break. So maybe take 10 minutes and we'll bring Fernando in. How's that? 3:20 and 2:20? 10 minutes? All
Yes.
right. Okay. We'll come back.
Thank you.
In 10 minutes. Thank you.
Thank you.
Diana, I'm sorry.
By this team.
I think it would be helpful to have 2 breakouts, and I think being able to share and practice will be a helpful activity. to give people an opportunity to exchange their knowledge and experience to just practice using one.
Do you want to use this particular example or the one that I'm showing, or one that may be captured by one of the plants?
I think one captured by the plant would be more practical. Yeah, especially like there was a few that came out from the homework that was identified around training.
I have, for instance, I was taking notes during the explanations, and I see that some of the comments that were kind of common between the different explanations. One of the ones that I hear from Edson and Brenda, I think it was that the system is too complex. The other one that I was able to identify, and probably this is gonna be key one, uncertainty of the new system as potential problems, I think.
Mhm.
So let me know if the probably, and I would suggest to use the statement that the system is too complex as the problem definition, and then let the team split in two, have the, I don't know, how much time do we have? 20 minutes, half an hour for them to work on it?
I would say no more than, say, about 10 minutes.
Okay.
Is that possible? Because if people are, those who are more familiar with it can help those who are less familiar with it.
Okay.
And then also if we do a mix between Mexico, Canada, and the US, that way it'll allow people to sort of learn from one another as well and hear about issues that are going on, especially with Canada being a little bit ahead and earlier. They would have some valuable experiences to continue sharing. So Sun Chao will be setting up the breakout rooms and just even having a brief discussion on each of those elements of the fishbone will increase and refresh people's memory of it.
A complex statement, that's pretty broad though.
Yeah,
I'm wondering how you,
sharpen it.
that's not something you're solving right now because complexity, like from a root cause.
Yeah.
I'm wondering,
How about we do two groups? We'll do a Mexico, a Spanish speaking group, and then an English speaking group. And then in our group, Ryan, let's just look at the Farmington Hills situation. And I think we can pick anything just to kind of use this as an exercise. So we'll use the Farmington Hills. We went out, we tried to do it. Why are people not testing? So we can follow.
Okay, that'd be easier.
Yeah.
That's
And
more
then
of a
on
fish
the
bone.
Mexico side, you guys can do the training side.
Okay.
Sound good?
Yeah. Sorry, I just gave Sun Chao instruction to mix the groups, but we could, I'll see if, see how he's organized it.
Yeah, maybe it'll help us to move through it faster.
Okay.
It's already 10 to 4.
Okay. So Sun Chao, are you okay going back to all Mexico and then the other groups?
Yes, and it's ready to go.
Okay. So maybe repeat the instructions, Fernando, of what you want the two groups to do.
Okay, the whole idea is, number one, for what I hear from Suzanne, the US-Canada team will be focusing on Farmington Hills training, and the Mexico team will focus on the training that it was identified. And the purpose of this exercise is for each team to identify within the 10 minutes, which is not going to be enough time, but for purpose of exercise, it will work, to identify what, on the brainstorming session, what do you think are the different reasons or root causes of why is the training or lack of training a problem. And then once you identify, I don't know, 2, 3 of those, try to put them on which category it may be related to. Man related or people related, material related. In this case, maybe material like paper and things like that. The method, the machine, if it is software related or hardware related, or the environment, that means the office environment or the culture and things like that related to that. And 10 minutes later, I will ask each team to give a brief explanation, probably 5 minutes, about what their discussion was. And I believe the brainstorming will be very useful for each of the teams, since they were going to be sharing their own experiences.
Okay. Any questions before before you move into your breakout rooms? Okay. 10 minutes. Off you go. We'll see you in a moment. Okay, you're muted, Fernando.
My bad, sorry. So now I would like to ask each of the team, one person per team, to give a brief explanation about what the potential root causes you identify for the hypothetical problem that we just put in front of you, and try to do it in 5 minutes and explain a couple of the potential, let's say, reasons or ideas of what the problem is a problem. So if we can start with, I don't know, Gabriel, Tania, or Amalia, any of you who want to do the talking?
Yes. Yes. We were talking and discussing about this lack of training, and we identified nine ideas, maybe, in these 10 minutes. What we will do is maybe to identify what is most repetitive in order to make a PDCA. Please correct me if I say something wrong.
Can you share your screen real quick for the fishbone kind of we come up with?
Yes.
If you don't mind.
Let me show you. I will share my screen. Are you watching my screen?
Yep.
Okay. This is the idea that we identify. Is in manpower or management, no good people chosen to take the training, lack of practice, and materials. There are different materials. Maybe they are, it's in disorder, and it's a mix of materials online. For method, we identified a different language from the translator, and in environment, lack of time,
Disclaimer, I did the writing while those guys were talking, so you can see my Mexican, American, and bad grammar. mix of everything. So it says trainer, not the translator, not related with the ERP system. That's
Thank you.
what I think it was told by Gabriel. Of course, they were talking too fast for me and I was skipping.
Thank you, thank you. And talking about machine, the database is not complete when is needed. So the main idea is lack of practice. That's what we were identifying about these ideas for lack of training.
Okay. Thank you, Tani.
Thank you.
Very well explanation given my writing. So you're one of the few people who can understand what I write. From the US Canada team, anyone volunteer?
Yeah, I didn't quite write. I wrote it as notes, not as a presentation. Yeah, I can just quickly, just give me 2 seconds here. I'll just finish typing it up and I'll pull it up on the screen.
It just happened that I have a whiteboard and I just took a picture.
Okay, that's even, I should have done the same, I guess.
That's what I did. I just write down while those guys were talking. So,
Hey, Ryan, you should have used me. I'm in the meeting room with the whiteboard.
Yeah, I just wrote it down on a piece of paper. Okay, I'm not going to type out everything here. I'll just do it.
You can hold the paper up to the camera.
Yeah, I could. I'll just do this though.
Okay.
that will work too.
Okay, so I can share screen, post disabled participant screen sharing.
Okay, I think you have control now, Ryan.
Yeah, I do now. Okay, yep. 1 second. Okay, can everybody see?
Yep.
Yes.
So again, I just typed this out real quick. It doesn't look like a fishbowl. Under the man, right? So basically the main problem here is obviously Farmington not getting started with the training and not progressing right now. So we talked about like some of the problems here. So with the man side, obviously that could be a contribution of procrastination, not wanting to get into this training and a lot of other stuff, contributing from like time management or availability issues as well. Looking under material, as we talked about previously, some of it's not that easy to understand. So if you're not being coached along, it's very hard to get through this material. From a method side, basically the action plan. So they might not understand the action plan. There might not be enough detail in there. Maybe no follow-up to the original plan to make sure everything is progressing. So that's under more of a method category. Under environment, management encouragement. So here, obviously making sure that we're promoting it in our environment with that type of follow-up. Awareness even as well, making sure that everybody has that understanding. Under measurement, it could be that there's not enough milestone understanding or a schedule to support that milestone. So that's under measurement and follow-up of key measurables. And really in this case, under machine, I mean, it's not too much applicable here. Most of them have it on their computers that it's available to use. It's more or less, I think, just getting into it. So sorry, I typed that real quick, but it's the basic fundamentals of each category. Any questions?
Very good. Excellent.
You captured the discussion really well. Thank you, Ryan.
All right. 1, 2, 3. As I was mentioning before, I'm juggling with 3 different screens here. And I want to share my screen again. Okay, now you can see it. First of all, thanks for the exercise. Very good ideas given the time. What you can see, for instance, the purpose of the exercise was not to really solve and go deep into the problem, because the exercise was only for 10 minutes and you cannot solve a problem in 10 minutes. but just to have the idea. But if you think about it, each team was able to identify 9 different potential causes in 10 minutes, right? So chances are, if we give it 1 hour time, chances are we're gonna find, I don't know, 60 potential root causes or 60 potential reasons why there is a problem. Many screens here. So on my hypothetical case, I did the exercise for about an hour, only myself, and I come up with 38 different potential reasons in less than an hour. So normally, when we are on a fishbone or Ichikawa analysis, everybody is brainstorming the potential, what they think, and then we put them into each of these categories. Then the next step is, once people run out of those ideas, is to go back and review them again and see if, once you have the explanation, they make sense to be a potential root cause. Oftentimes, we ended up probably scratching off 50% of them. Let's say in this hypothetical case, if we give it 1 hour, we ended up with 60 ideas. After a second round of review, we may scratch off 50% of them. So we ended up with 30. What we normally do, at least in AGC, is then we prioritize, as you can see in here, we prioritize those actions, or we prioritize those potential root causes, and then we jump right into the PDCA or the A3. And oftentimes they look like this. Does this PDCA look familiar to you?
Yes.
I have the PDCA, which is the A3. I have the priorities here, which are high, low, and medium. Okay. But what it tells me in this case, number one, is we have too many activities, too many actions. In this particular case, I have 38 actions, right? Let me ask you this and ask sincerely. Who has access to do, or who has time to do 38 activities? No one, right, Brenda?
Not so many.
Okay, got it. So, and oftentimes we ended up with too many activities. Those many activities require a lot of people. So we're putting a lot of extra work on the associates. And then it keeps people busy on the many activities which are irrelevant. And oftentimes we fail to identify what is really important, because we don't dig into the why. That's what I meant before when I was saying that the fishbone is a 5 why in disguise, but oftentimes we don't use it that much, or we don't use it the proper way. So if you see I ended up out of my, out of my fishbone, I ended up with a nearly never-ending story of activities that I always say, I have 30 activities that it will take me 30 days to complete. That means that don't bother me in the next 30 days because I'm gonna be busy. That's what it normally end up being. But instead of doing these 30 activities and not digging into the why, I only use one example in this particular case of me not being doing exercise because of watching Netflix too much, I only took one out of those 30 something that I originally considered, and I dig deep into what is really going on. And going into example, uh, I've been doing the same thing for 30 years and no health issues, therefore I don't have to do exercise. I can continue watching the Netflix. If I do the 5 whys and I keep asking why, as your 3-year-old son will ask why and why and why and why until you finally get mad at him, right? Then when you ended up or finish with the asking why, you ended up with the real root cause. So at the end of the day, rather than ended up with a 30 activities action plan that it will keep everybody busy, rather than doing that, the right way to do the AGC way, is to use the why, so we can segregate the many relevant from the few important, and rather than ended up with 30 activities, we may finish with 3 or 5 actions that will really solve the problem, and it will really give us, if not a completely solution, at least the biggest bang for our buck. That's what I want to convey into the fishbone. I know you guys know how to use the fishbone and you have been using it before, but my message is, once you select the 3 or 5 highest potential, keep digging and asking why until you find the good and the real solution or the real root cause. In this case, I do not do exercise, not because many excuses that I may have, but really because I don't do exercise because I'm lazy. And the final comment that I have for you today is the PDCA, any PDCA or A3 has to have or has to be as a result of a previous well done and use of the problem solving methodology. And the PDCA is not a punching list of many activities that will keep people occupied by using the shotgun approach. Hopefully one of those 30 will be the real one, and we get a solution. Bless you, Tani. The thing is here is, once you identify the 3 or 5 more potential reasons, keep digging and asking why until you really find the real solution and the real root cause. And with that said, that's my final comment. And since we're talking about how I can get more healthy, and going back to, or circle back to the previous comment, how to knock it out of the park when you're batting or when you're playing baseball or when you're problem solving or you're solving a problem, this is the recipe for success. 3 main things: keep persistence, good discipline, and be patient. And in some point in time, you're gonna be very good at solving problem as you are knocking the ball out of the park. And that's the end of my comment.
All right.
Thank you.
Thank you very much, Fernando. Suzanne, any comments before we start to close?
I thank you as well, Fernando. I think this session was a very nice reminder for us on how to use this tool. And I hope that as we go forward, our goal today is just to remind you that these tools exist and we can go in and use them when we're struggling to solve problems. And there's many more, and I'm sure Fernando would love to open that box up and show you all the tricks inside. Thank you, Fernando.
Very welcome. Thanks for inviting me.
Yes, so thank you very much for your help. I know we're just at 2 minutes left to our session, so I'm going to skip the checkout and give you your homework assignment for our next session. We're going to carry on with part 2 with taking a look at A3 problem solving. To prepare for that, I'd like you to practice what Fernando has shared with us today. If each of you can identify a presenting issue, a problem, and apply the fishbone diagram. And when you prepare the fishbone diagram, prepare like on one slide like this to share when we meet next time. Okay. Are there any questions about the homework?
No, but I'm gonna, maybe Fernando, I might need your help for a minute. So I want to remind you that when we talk about a presenting issue, it doesn't mean you're presenting the issue. It means the issue has surfaced.
Yeah.
So an issue has presented itself.
Yeah. So being able to identify an issue.
Yes. Fernando, can you translate that?
Yes, but I believe it was clear.
Okay, everybody's clear? Yes? Okay.
I'm just gonna translate it and I have to do some interpretation in Spanish now.
30 seconds.
I'm switching. Yes. Lo que Susana intenta decir es que cuando tengan que presentar un problema, no tiene que ser el problema per se, pero al menos un problema que haya salido a la superficie como identificado como un problema.
Okay.
Very nice. Thank you.
Okay. So I'll write out the homework again and we'll send it out in an email because this session covered a lot more material. And so we'll send up the slides as well. So you'll be heads up for what's next coming down. But I want to say thank you to everybody. Have a good week and I'll see you next week. It's going to be early morning next time at 8:30 in the morning for Farmington Hill and Canada, and even earlier for Mexico.
Mexico okay with that, or do we need to push it up a little bit?
No.
Okay.
Okay.
Guadalajara is okay. Thank you.
Diana, one sec. Sorry, Diana. Next week, unfortunately, I'm actually on vacation, and where I'm going to be won't have good data to stream. So I'm pretty actually familiar with these 5 whys and the fish bones and everything. So, but Brenda can attend next week.
Okay.
Perfect.
Yeah. So we're doing the A3 next week as well?
Yeah.
Okay.
Which I've done that as well too.
Okay, great.
Yeah.
Okay.
Thank you, everybody.
All right. Take care, everyone. Have a good week. So
Thank you.
presentation, 2-minute presentation. Okay.
Thank you.
Bye,
Bye.
Tanya.
Bye.
Bye, Amalia. Bye, Gabby.
Bye, Amalia. Bye, Gabrielle. Bye, Amalia.